But first team out, the 8 seed, Kyle, 5-7. He has a path to the playoffs, but he needs help. ESPN gives him a 23% chance. I'd say that's about appropriate. His paths are as follows. He can tie Saheed in record with one other tied to force to points. Okay, so basically he needs a 3-way tie with Saheed so that he leads in points. It also would depend on who that other one could be. There's a few different ways that could happen. He also could surpass Alex in record or tie and hold the head-to-head. He's basically one game back of Alex. So Kyle very much has a chance to get in. It's just going to depend on what happens with this game here with Sam. He lost in week 11 to Sam, 167 to 129. So we'll have to see how this one goes. He has a chance here. It feels like a long shot, but hey, anything can happen in fantasy, right?
Yeah, he definitely has a chance. I mean, these are two teams that are right there on the cutting board, and Kyle has gotten new life from Kyron Williams, the number 8 running back in fantasy, even though he's been out for like 4 weeks. But Sam's got some work to do. He's got I think 1, 2, 3 players on a bye week here in this lineup, so he's gonna have to tweak that up and see how he can make this a little bit difficult for Kyle.
Yeah, and it probably is just going to be a little bit difficult because when you have bye weeks, it's hard to make that up when you got your starters out. So next up, we got, now I want to group these together, okay? So 9 seed is Lewis, 10 seed is Sam. They both have 4-8 records. Now, if you look on ESPN, they both have a 1% chance of making the playoffs. I'd say that's close to being right, but it's a little bit different. One is like, they're saying 1%. I think it's more like a 5 to 10% chance for Lewis. For Sam, it truly is a 1%, and I'll explain. His chance to get in, Lewis's, he has to win out. Alex has to lose out. And in that regard, Lewis and Alex, if they tie, it would go, he holds the head-to-head in week 10. So going to points would not end well. It can't be a 3-way tie. But yeah, he has a chance here. If he ends up at 6-8 and Alex ends up at 6-8 and there is a 2-way tie at 6-8, he holds the head-to-head. He could get in.
So no 3 ways?
No 3 ways. No 3-way. No menage a trois. We don't want any of that, okay? Keep it family.
All right.
No, that got you excited there. That horse in the background.
That horse. Like, he's over here. There he is.
They're like, you over there with the royal, you got the royal horse in the background. Just
horse, he's
galloping
ready
on 5 legs.
He sure is.
Yeah.
He got excited when you said that 3-way.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of excited,
calm down over
there. Yeah. Speaking of excited, Sam, he's always excited. Love Sam, man. He's got the true 1% chance. So
there we go.
This is Sam's path in. All right. This is all the things that have to happen. He has to win out. Lewis has to win out. Alex has to lose out. So they all tie. Kyle has to win one and lose one. So that way it forces a 4-way tie. Because Lewis, this is interesting. Lewis has had a better year than you realize. He holds the head-to-head over Alex and Sam, but not Kyle. So Sam has to force a 4-way tie. It would go to points, and then you would have to make up 53 points over Alex, who leads that group in points. So that's a true 1% chance. If he gets into the playoffs, it'll be a miracle. But could you imagine that story? Sam getting in, that would mean that the entire champions division gets into the playoffs.
Wow. Like last year.
Yep. 11 seed. Gus, how you doing, brother?
Hey.
It's not the 11 seed. He just came in first twice. 3-9. You are eliminated from the playoffs. You already knew that.
Damn.
You can. I do have a silver lining for you here.
Okay. Here we go.
All right. You can avoid the last place game.
Okay.
If you win out and you finish with a better record than Lewis or Sam, you're 1 game back from them. Okay. Right. So if they do what they do best and you don't do what you haven't been doing best, then you could end up avoiding that game. You could tie Lewis. You do hold the head-to-head. So you could tie them, and you would also avoid the last place game, and Lewis would be battling again for his life. And then you're last in points and the split in the head-to-head with Sam, so that wouldn't work out for you. But you're playing me, and I know that you would love to win that belt. So I mean,
you got this.
We've
bro.
all been here. Hey, I'm hoping so, but I know that you're still going to be entering Sunday with a hope, and I know that you're going to be like, "Come on, just let a miracle happen here."
No, I'll be watching SpongeBob, bro. The only way you can get me to watch football now if you put on the Nickelodeon with the slime and all that stuff.
Just hurts too much, huh?
Yeah, it's painful at this point.
Been one of those years. I hear you, man. It's one of those years sometimes. It's like you ever get like it always happens every year. I know it's happened more for you this year, but like I'm in a bunch of different leagues. You know that. Yeah. And there's always that one week where everything just goes to crap. You lose every single one, and you're just fuck this game. Yep. I'm done. Oh man, it's so aggravating. But that brings us to Jeff, 12th seed. He is 1-11. His one win was versus Lewis.
No, really?
Yep, one win was versus Lewis. He's eliminated from the playoffs. He is locked into the last seed. He can do nothing to stop that. He is going to be in the last place game. He will also be the underdog and not have the 5-point advantage in the last place game. So he has the inside track to get clowned next draft. The only thing he can do is play spoiler and avoid punishment in week 15 with the win. He plays Alex this week, who he lost to by a crap ton just 2 weeks ago.
Brown Underwear Stains.
Yeah, he named it appropriately. That's for sure.
That's crazy. Change that name.
Smell something.
It's too late.
You know what he thought? He thought that he was gonna name his team that way this year, and that we were just not going to change the name next year. But we're going to have to find something a lot more creative, a lot better than that. So, maybe we'll finally put something that he would never put himself about the Saints.
Okay.
Start thinking, fellas. It's out there. What you watching, Goose? What NFL game?
What I'm watching. All right. Well, I told you can't get me to watch football, right? Unless there's cartoons involved. But if you're telling me that I'm going to be watching the Super Bowl in week 13, I'm turning the TV back on because I'm watching the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's interesting. Yeah, Super Bowl, 2 NFC teams. That's a heck of a Super Bowl. So, just had to point that out there. NFC Championship game. Hey,
There you go.
There we go. That's what he meant. He just, damn autocorrect. But 49ers and Eagles over under 46.5. San Fran favored by 3. Who are you taking to win this game?
Oh man. You know what? I don't know. I want to say Eagles. They've been playing so well. They only have one loss in the season. They're undefeated at home. This game is in Lincoln Financial Field. The weather looks like it's going to be okay. Were you able to catch any of that Eagles? Was it Bills game?
Bills game
that went to overtime. Wow!
Man,
in the rain,
dude. That game, dude. It looked like crap for half the game. Like Jalen Hurts looked like he finally got figured out for like half the game.
Right.
And then he just went nuclear. Him and Josh. That was an amazing watch, man. Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are playing good. Don't get me wrong, but they've been kind of, winning things by flying by the seat of their pants in some of these games. You know what I mean? I'm gonna San Francisco is favored here by 3. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take San Fran. I think they win this game.
I can see it, man.
I don't think they should be the favorite here. I'm surprised that they are. Just because of what you said, the Eagles haven't lost at home. They're playing so good. But there's got to be a gut check sooner or later. They need to, pause for the cause to kind of regroup at some point.
Is it? You think they're going to lose at home? The first loss?
Now I don't necessarily think it'll happen again in the NFC Championship. You never know what could happen and where that's at. So, the winner here, if they play again, might not be the winner in the future. It depends,
You're right.
And
right.
So we'll have to see what happens. But I think the 49ers might need and want this one a little bit more. The Eagles, they've been flying high, that's for sure. But I just don't know how much longer they can keep winning like this. Better lose one now, maybe regroup and, figure some things out. Get that passing defense figured out a little bit. Take a look at Brock Purdy, see how he looks in this game going against that pass defense, because it's a hidden weakness right now. They have great run defense, but you can pass on the Eagles, and there's some teams that can pass. I don't know what's going to happen the next time the Eagles play the Cowboys,
Right.
or if they meet in the Cowboys could be beating the Eagles in the playoffs. You never know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the Eagles losing to the Chiefs left a little sour taste. You know how those teams are that losing the Super Bowl. They kind of they get a little bit stronger usually, and they kind of they play with a chip on their shoulder the rest of the year and learn how to win, how to close out those games. So that's you already know Phillies. It's Super Bowl or bust this year.
Yep. And, not only that, but Super Bowl or bust, Broncos and Texans. I mean, hey, two AFC teams. Maybe this will be the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship. Sorry.
All right.
No, but this is interesting to me, though, because both these teams do have playoff possibilities here. They're surprising for different reasons. The over-under is 47.5. It's going to be a heck of a game. Houston's favored by 3.5. This is just interesting to me because, think about it, man. The Broncos defense has done a complete 180 since that 70-point shellacking. They're not an easy play, but neither is CJ Stroud. So I want to see how that goes. I want to see how it looks and how it should look with Russ going against a defense that he should be able to get some stats up against. Because don't get me wrong, we've talked about it in the group chat and everything. He's looked better than what I would have expected out of him. I thought that he was completely done. Now, he's not completely done. He can still help a team win football games, but he definitely doesn't look the same. His stats are not, 300-yard passing games and things like that all the time.
Okay.
So he's doing better for real NFL games than he is right now for fantasy, is what I mean. So I do wonder how it'll look when he's going against the Texans defense that he should expose, that he should be able to hit some plays down the field if he's going to look the way he should against a soft pass D.
I agree. I was like, how can you hit on my man Russell Wilson? He's got 20 touchdowns, tied for fifth most in the NFL, second in the NFL to touchdown interception ratio, fourth in passer rating. He is tied for third and fourth quarter comebacks. He has 3 game-winning drives this year, second in the NFC. This guy might be going to that flag football Pro Bowl this year.
Hey, you never know. Look, the Broncos, they've turned it around some. They are still in the middle. They're in the mix. They're not a top contender. They definitely have some work to do. But it is surprising. I will say I am surprised they're able to turn it around. Sean Payton is a good coach. I think he's a little overrated. I don't think that he's a great coach. He did lead some clunkers down there in New Orleans when they had some crappy defenses. But he got a response out of this team. He didn't lose the locker room, which a lot could have after getting spanked by 50 points in a 70-point, game like that. So, we'll have to see what happens. I think that the Broncos are stringing together some game managers with late career Peyton Manning. Now they got late career Russell Wilson. I don't know if that's going to get it done in that division.
What? So I think they got down a 5-game winning streak. Dude,
they're playing good. But what are they going to do in the playoffs? Like, even if they make it, like, are we talking about that the Broncos are real contenders? That's what I'm saying. Because that's what they got Russell Wilson and Sean Payton for.
Right, and it's year 1, so we got to be a little realistic.
Yeah.
But a 5-game winning streak after they got their asses handed to by the Dolphins. Most teams would have folded right after that game. That would have been the season.
Yeah.
Like the Raiders fired what's it called, their head coach, and now what's his name, the Panthers fired their head coach. They're like 1-11. They waited to lose 11 games to figure that out. Kind of dumb. So I'll give it to them. Oh, and last but not least, they're having a baby, by the way. Their third baby's on the way. How can you not? How can you hate on this dude?
It's not. I mean, here's the thing. It's not so much hate for him because I mean he's awkward. It's kind of funny. I mean, whatever. It's not so much that it's that. It was the thing is to me was, and I'll tell you what it kind of originated for me was there. Everybody was saying let Russ cook. All of us did. We all thought that he was going. We all said, well, he's getting held back in Seattle. Let's get him out of there and let him do what he wants to do. Okay, that happened. And it looked like that the Broncos were going to be like the next great thing. Everybody's looking at this is a great fantasy output, real NFL. It's going to be like the 2013 Broncos. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And he looked like crap. He looked garbage. And that's my point through all this too, is that when he had a chance to show that he is that dude, he's that Peyton Manning, Tom Brady getting a chance with a second team. Like those guys didn't get traded. It was because of an injury for Peyton Manning. It was Tom Brady, just wanting to get out of, Nazi camp over there, basically. And I mean, when he got traded and it looked like Seattle was right. And I thought it was actually, kind of eye-opening that Russ, maybe Seattle was correct. Russ isn't that great of a quarterback. He's good at winning games and doing well overall, being a good leader. He is a great player. He's had his good times, but it wasn't something that he can just be plugged anywhere and he's going to elevate the rest of the team. And that was kind of frustrating, man, because it's like it felt kind of fooled when he went over there and just kind of laid a turd like that. You know what I mean? It was part Nathaniel Hackett, but it was on him too. He made some boneheaded throws.
Yeah, I agree with you there partly. Yeah, you gotta look at the performance and kind of judge it as is. But then coaching plays a big part. I'm a big coaching person, so that and then Nathaniel Hackett is garbage. If you don't believe me, just look at the Jets and see if Zach Wilson is still playing over there. He's not. So how that guy, and we talked about it in the chat, how these guys are allowed to get recycled through the NFL after proving time and time again that they're actually not good at the job they're attempting to do. It's beyond me. But I mean, I'm not the one hiring these guys. I'm not the one paying these guys for the 5-6 years. What is this Frank Reich making now? Like I think I saw something about
25,000 a day.
That was a day, right? For the next 4 or 5 years. Yeah, congratulations. You suck, and you're gonna get rewarded for it.
You just made more than 75% of American salary in a week. For what? For failing. It's ridiculous. And you're giving me the perfect segue here because you were looking at when we were looking at players, coaches, things like that. You gave me Mike Sullivan, Kenny Pickett. They fired Matt Canada. I'm guessing that you're looking at this because the first game without Matt Canada, they finally reached over 400 yards of offense, which is the first never happened with Matt Canada. So, what are you looking at there? They're playing the Cardinals. It shouldn't be that much of a test. Are you looking to see if this is for real?
Well, yes, that's part of it. Before we get into that, I'll throw a question back at you.
Okay.
Who was the head coach the last time Mike Sullivan was the offensive coordinator for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I'm going to say, was he under Greg Schiano?
Oh, damn, Jordan, you good. Yes, sir. Toe the line, Greg Schiano. And do you remember who was the starting quarterback for that team?
That was the Josh Freeman days, wasn't it?
Damn, 2 for 2. Congratulations. Here's a Josh Freeman highlight reel. Yes.
Shortest video ever, huh?
So what do you remember from those days, real quick? Just I don't know.
You know what I remember from those days was a lot of disappointment because it that was that after effect of coming down from the Super Bowl high from way earlier in the 2000s, and then you got Josh Freeman, and it seemed like he had. I mean, there was some good offensive output sometimes, and that maybe he would figure it out. But that's what sucks about quarterbacks, man. It's like you really don't know until 2 or 3 years later if you got a good one. And he showed flashes, but he teased us. And then the same thing with Jameis, you know, it was the same thing. You know, you tease us, but you don't get us to the playoffs. So that's what I kind of remember about that. I remember, you know, having some good fantasy games from guys like Mike Williams. He was
Yes.
he was back there, you know, rest in peace. But you know,
The hamster,
there was,
muscle hamster.
Michael Clayton. Remember him? That was earlier on back then. But we had some good possession receivers, you know, and finally got, you know, Mike Evans, who was a better deep threat, and that boosted our offense. But it still took, you know, the GOAT to come and take us to the Super Bowl. So
Yeah, we had Doug Martin ran for 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns that season. Who was the backup quarterback that year?
behind Freeman.
We had
That
a
is good.
really
It wasn't
bad-
Josh McCown at that point.
No, it was your boy Dan Orlovsky.
Orlovsky. Oh man, I would never have gotten that one. I didn't even know. I knew he was here one year, but I didn't remember that he would stay the whole year.
Yeah. Anyways, enough memory lane tripping, but yeah, it's just it was a much needed change. Again, we're the consumers, right? And like usually when the consumer notes not a problem in the product that he's consuming, makes a complaint, changes happen. Well, for Matt Canada, it took almost 2 years of people just constantly complaining. You're seeing the product in the field, it's just plain garbage compared to what other offensive coordinators are calling. This guy's calling like Sesame Street stuff, and it's just hurting. You know, we're talking top capital, millions of dollars you're investing in these picks. And yeah, so I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is, you know, the second coming of Tom Brady, but you obviously saw some improvement. You saw some upgraded routes run by the receivers, and I think the ceiling is up. I think you're just going to see just a much better product from the Steelers. They're in line to make the playoffs and make a little noise. So we'll see what happens. But I think the sky's the limit for these guys right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, they should have definitely made a change. But there is one thing that I would point out, and that the thing that has made the Steelers one of the most successful franchises in the history of sports, and still one of the best. Every season they're predicted they're only going to get 4 or 5 wins, and Mike Tomlin has them battling for the division. You know what I mean? Yeah. But they've only had, I think, 4 total head coaches in their whole existence?
Yeah.
They don't fire guys. They find the right guys. They stick with it. They go through the bad times, the good times, and it just didn't work out. That wasn't the right thought process for this instance. But in general, I can understand why they would be more stubborn like that and reluctant to make a move. I would have thought they might make it in the off season. I didn't think that they would do it mid-season. They don't fire coaches mid-season. That's kind of rare. So
they don't know.
So that was just surprising, but it is interesting though, and I want to see what they do and who they hire, or if they just, because it is someone different, but you can't change too much mid-season. That's another thing to consider too. But I'll tell you what, I got my eye on. This might be boring to some people, but I'm going to challenge the watching audience this weekend. There's 2 guys I got my eye on. They're guards, left guards. If you're not familiar with what left guards do, well, they make the whole offensive line go. They are the motor. It's not about just pass protection. It's not about just snapping the ball. That guy left of center is very much responsible for most of the pulls, most of the traps. They're the most athletic athlete, I would say, most of the time on the offensive line. They got to handle defensive tackles straight up like Aaron Donald a lot of times. Which is going to have to happen this weekend with a couple of guards. Quentin Nelson, he's a young guy, and then Joel Bitonio, he is an older guy. Old, when I say old, he's 32. Number 56 for the Colts and number 75 for the Browns. They play the Titans and the Rams. Great defensive tackles, and Jeffrey Simmons and Aaron Donald, respectively. Take your eye off the ball sometimes when you watch football. We always watch what happens, the quarterback to the running back to the receiver. Take a look at the line play, because that is really what drives if a team is going to be successful or not. And these are 2 of the best guards to do it. And they are facing 2 of the best defensive tackles to do it. So there's going to be some collisions. There is going to be some hits. The Titans are great against the run, and the Colts are going to want to. They're going to have to run at some point. And here's some information for you. The Titans, before they played Zach Moss the last time, had not allowed a 100-yard rusher, I think, in like 50 games. And then Zach Moss was the one. Well, guess what? Guess who's playing this week now that JTT is out? So that's going to be interesting. Same thing with the Browns versus the Rams. The Browns don't have a real quarterback. They're going to want to run the ball, and they're going to be using Bitonio to do it. Watch the pulls. Watch the traps. Is he winning versus Aaron Donald? Probably not. How is he coping with that? How much are they letting him get away with holding? You want to talk about the 10-yard penalties at the worst time of the game, late in the game. That's set up earlier in the game. It all matters. You can't just watch the last 2 minutes of a football game and think that everything's BS because it doesn't go the way you want, right? These are trends that the referees let happen throughout the game. And how is it going to, play out in the last 2 minutes? It might come down to it for both these teams because the Browns and Rams are pretty evenly matched, I would say. And then Quentin Nelson, and the Colts versus the Titans, that's a division game. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, interesting. Different way to watch football.
Not for everybody, but it's for me. I love offensive line play, man. It's a lot of fun. The biggest hit to me, here's how I would say it. A lot of the guys like to watch fights, right? I love watching UFC and boxing as well. Watching the running backs, the receivers, the quarterbacks, that's like watching the fun stuff. The guys that stand up and throw blows that they don't go to the ground very much. Watching the offensive defensive line, that's like watching grappling. There's a lot of technique. It's more than just, guys just randomly taking each other to the ground. You got to know what you're doing. And that's really what it's about. If you can get into grappling in UFC, you can get into watching some offensive line play in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I could see that.
Final thoughts, Goose? Anything else you want to bring attention to before we wish everybody luck for Lucky Week 13?
No, I don't have much. I don't have much to say. Good luck to whoever needs it. It's been a wacky year, but whoever's in the hunt, just play those right guys, or I don't know, do whatever routine you've been doing. It's gonna be fun. We got a lot of playoff scenarios coming up. Obviously, right now, let's see. I'll pull up the picture real quick. We got the Ravens right now with the number 1 seed, right? And the Eagles. So they would get the buys, and then everybody else. Then we got the Chiefs with the Colts versus the Colts. Jaguars, 8-3, first in the AFC South against the Browns. And then Dolphins against Steelers. And then on the other side, you got the 49ers versus the Vikings right now at 6-6. Hey, Vikings. And the Lions versus the Seahawks. And then you would have the Falcons, the NFC South leading Falcons against the Cowboys. Don't count the Bucks out; they can definitely get in. But you probably have a little more insight on how that
go for the draft pick. Go for the draft pick. I don't give a crap about losing. I don't care about losing in the playoffs. Let I don't want the Saints to win the division, but let them get a worse pick out of it. I don't even care at this point. We need more talent. We do. And we need some better guys to make the decisions on talent too, but that would be a whole other podcast. Honestly, man, it's just that time of year that it feels great that we're getting into some real important games in both NFL and fantasy, but it's also winding down. You can see the end is near. You got Christmas coming up. The fantasy season is almost done, and the playoffs are coming. It's a lot of exciting football, but the off season is coming here soon too. So just enjoy it, man. Take it all, 1 week, 1 day at a time, whether you're in or out of the playoffs and fantasy. Just enjoy football, man, because we only get a few months a year that we get to stress out like this, and then we're wishing we were back in those few months. So enjoy the weather. It's a little cooler, a little bit nicer in Florida for once. So enjoy that, and good luck, everybody.
Peace.
Peace out.